continuamos con el evento del día de hoy. Cuéntenos cómo le están pasando en este primer día del Congreso con el hashtag Congreso PMI Nuevo León 2020 en sus redes sociales. Al final del día se estarán rifando 3 obsequios para ustedes, entonces los invitamos a participar en esta dinámica. A continuación, daremos inicio a nuestra segunda conferencia que lleva por título The Human Side of the Project Economy, en la cual se brindarán algunos consejos sobre cómo una persona puede crear conciencia sobre sus valores, cómo prepararse para ser más ético y tomar decisiones éticas, y también reflexionar sobre estas decisiones, ya que las personas son fundamental de la economía de proyectos y sin duda alguna el liderazgo en ellas es más necesario que nunca en tiempos de interrupciones. Nuestro ponente será el señor Walenta, quien trabajó en IBM de 1983 a 2014 en varios proyectos y programas, así como en PMOs de clientes de múltiples industrias, locaciones y culturas. Trabajó en su primer proyecto en 1974 y construyó su primera PMO desde 1995. En 2017 obtuvo un diplomado en dirección de empresas por IOD y es miembro del PMI desde 1992 y de GPM y PMA desde 1995. También es voluntario del PMI desde 1998 y dirigió el capítulo del PMI de Frankfurt durante 8 años. Fue elegido como miembro de la Junta del PMI por 2 periodos de 3 años cada uno y además fue miembro del Comité de Revisión de Ética del PMI durante 6 años. Thomas es un keynote speaker desde 2000 y se ha presentado en conferencias a nivel mundial. Hoy es entrenador, profesor y mentor y se considera un experto global en The Project Economy, abarcando todos los aspectos de un nuevo paradigma para la gestión de proyectos personas de 5 a 75 años, en todos los marcos de entrega de valor y ayudando a la sociedad global a mejorar. Por favor, démosle una calurosa bienvenida a nuestro conferencista del día de hoy, Walenta. Welcome, Thomas.
You are on mute, Thomas.
Sorry. So good morning to Mexico from Germany. We have afternoon here, and I'm delighted to be able to talk to you to a time that is also convenient for me. And I'm also delighted to be invited to your session here, to your good conference. I attended the other speech before me, and I was very impressed about the depth of the content that was presented there, and I hope I can keep up with that. So I'm sorry to say that I'm not able to speak or understand your language. So I speak German and I speak English and a little bit French, but that's it somehow. So maybe I should learn more languages, as you never stop learning. What is not on that short bio of mine is I'm 66 years old. I'm married for 35 years now, so I'm a very loyal person. And, I also worked 31 years for IBM, so I stick to something which I started, and I'm able to overcome some troubles over time. So today, let me see what I present to you. It's actually a deck about the human side of the project economy. And you might have heard about the term, the project economy, and actually it's a trademark of PMI. So PMI in 2019, when we had a anniversary of 50 years, so we decided to rebrand PMI, and you can see this nice signs like on the right hand side here. This means it's a vision sign, and the red color means it's a fearless vision. So that is something that we redesigned with a lot of other things. And I was part of that project in 2019 because I was still on the board of directors at this time. So we thought we should do something very exciting on that. you are the reason why I'm speaking to you today, and because as project managers or people involved in project management, you are the leaders of teams and customers into a positive future. You show them a plan, you show them how to get there, the ways how to get there. You provide them safety and security. You will find some practical and some philosophical ideas in my presentation. And you may ask questions at the end or in the chat, or you can get the deck. It's all up to you that you use the content I'm offering to you. And well, it's up to you. If you deep dive, and I will show you some literature recommendations, some books, and also you might contact with me through LinkedIn and email and discuss questions or ideas you have, if there's not enough time after that. In the global profession, in PMI, in the chapter, you find like-minded people with similar problems. When I joined PMI in 1992, and I joined the PMI Frankfurt chapter, it was because I could meet project managers who also wanted to meet somebody, because there was nobody else you could share your problems with. You always meet in groups if you have a similar problem. And that's exactly that. I told you I'm married for 35 years, but still today, my wife is not willing to discuss with me any project management terms or problems. And the same if you are the project, you are the lonely person, you have maybe a customer or a sponsor who is asking something from you, and you have a team. You are in between, and you cannot really be very open about your problems with many people in the team. Maybe if you have a peer, that's good. So that's why these professional groups, the chapter, the PMI, is really important for us, to have a forum to express ourselves and to understand and help others who have similar problems. I call that the project management hive, and I will come back to the term hive again in my presentation. Nobody knows what will be in a year, and actually nobody ever did what will be in the year. So if you think a year back, Christmas time, did you think this would come like we are here? But what we can do is, we can connect with other humans, with other people, and fairly and openly share ideas and share problems and get help and provide help and see what's going on. So these things I wanted to share with you in the beginning. My pitch is about leadership and ethics. This is the human side. And it's about the project economy. What is it exactly? So let's have a look at that. So we powered the project economy we want to power the project economy to strengthen society. So it's not only about business, about companies, about for-profits. It's also about, governments, which are part of society, and also not-for-profits, which are also parts of society. So the social sector, if we call it. And everywhere where people come together and work together and want to achieve something. That's what we want to strengthen with the project economy. And we do that by two things: by enabling organizations in all these three sectors I mentioned, and also empowering the individuals, the people, in the order to make ideas a reality. You know the term, making ideas a reality. This is something. And in 2019, we rebranded PMI after 50 years, and we defined a language. These 9 icons you see here: collaboration, determination, change, and so on. These are words that we can put together, and we can label things we will bring out to the public and to our members and to yourself. And the colors also help us to somehow express what we want to be. If we want to be fearless, so we want to be very clear that we go forward in the positive way. We want to be bright, innovative, intelligent, and we want to be nurturing, so helping others and really to grow and to develop themselves. So what is project economy? A big term, today, and it's not actually something that is fully defined yet. But when we started with project management in PMI and in the whole world, talking about project management 50 years ago, it was just about project management. And what the term project economy means is to extend this term into the current times and also in the future. So we want to have an umbrella term that is helping us to understand what project management means today. And we think, and we have developed some surveys that show us that project management is everywhere. So everything, if you live in a VUCA world, projects will be more common in everything we do. It's all getting every shorter, and the tools in project management are available to everybody. So let's have a look what PMI did in this time. And PMI, certainly in the beginning of the 2000s, PMI thought about, okay, we should have a grab on program management, portfolio management, to extend this to have 3 standards and 3 certifications that built the core of what we had done. This was in the beginning of the 2000s. Even before we created the PMI Educational Foundation, which dealt with bringing project management thinking into the schools, to kids. And even today, the PMI Education Foundation cares about people in the age of 5 to 19. A lot of things have been done by the Education Foundation, which is also a charity. And we are caring for these guys worldwide. And if you haven't any knowledge about that, what PMIEF Education Foundation is doing, I urge you to go to their webpage and see there are a lot of case studies what is done well. So actually, I was in 2019, I was in Portugal, and I learned that the chapter in Portugal, the Lisbon chapter, they had a big program since 2013 and running since this time, and they went to schools and they had involved already more than 2,000 kids and more than 200 teachers and helped them to develop a project-based learning, which was very successful, because otherwise, if you start with that and are not successful, you will be not allowed to continue with that. And at this time when I was there, 2019, they were active, engaging with the Ministry of Education to change their curricula to allow officially this project-based working. So that's what is being done locally in countries and with the Education Foundation. On the upper side, you see Brightline. And if you haven't seen Brightline yet, so I also urge you to go to brightline.org. So Brightline was a initiative that was created by the board of directors. When I was there, when I came there in 2017, we had a decision to kickstart Brightline. Brightline is basically a startup. It's consisted of, at the core, 5 people, around Ricardo Vargas, who was a former chair of the PMI board. And these 5 people, they took on the task to bridge a gap between strategy definition and strategy implementation, which gap is in big organizations is being filled by something we call a transformation. And there are some surveys saying 70% of all transformations go wrong. They are not achieving the expected targets. So Brightline was founded to attack this gap, which is not really a root cause of PMI until this moment, but it became one now. And Brightline.org has a lot of papers and trainings and good ideas how to bridge that gap. And we didn't do it alone, and Ricardo Vargas with his team didn't do it alone. So they built a group of companies and organizations. There were universities from Tokyo, from Copenhagen, from other organizations. There were Boston Consulting Group. So there were really world-renowned organizations coming together in this initiative and helping the Brightline to have a leading edge view on how to bridge that gap. And what they did is in one of the last products they brought out a compass. So it's a way how to approach transformation. And this transformation compass is built on the experience of a professor from Stanford who brought in the data and the experience of more than 20 years of watching transformations being successful or not. So this is something you might also see in the future, that there is more talk about transformations and strategy gaps. So this is elevating project management to the organizational leadership, to the C-suite, to the board even. So maybe you will see in some future a transformation certification from PMI. I don't know, but there are rumors about that. And then, you know, we have seen also in 2019 the elevation of disciplined agile. So PMI made a major acquisition. So we bought the company of disciplined agile, and now we are in the process of integrating it into the PMI. And you see new certifications and new roadmaps, and disciplined agile is getting a good speed right now. This was the answer of PMI towards the ubiquitousness of agile. You know, agile is within the field of project management. Certainly in the project economy, it's something that has to be grappled, and we really made the acquisition to be able to be very quick on speed, you know. But not only PMI did something in the areas of project management and project economy. So the world developed, and the red things are things that PMI not yet really had a big impact on. So digitalization. So it's going on for, well, I worked for IBM, and I was digitalization knowledgeable in the 90s of last century. You know, we started emails and all this stuff, you know, and before that we had telephone calls, and then we had video conferences and everything. And PMI, to be honest, didn't look much in the digitalization until 2 or 3 years ago, when we had a new strategy from the board, and one of the points was PMI itself should be a digital organizations. And you see that, you know, for example, key certification exams are now being able to help from home. You have a proctored exam. You don't have to go somewhere and do that in a center. You can do it from your computer in a served way, proctored way. So digitalization within PMI is really having a big approach. It's going on, but now we are still missing a little bit, you know, what is going on in the field of digitalization in project management. You know, what does it mean to project management? And to give you one example which could help here is, you know, not sure if you heard about BIM, Building Information Management. It's in the construction business, the digitized way how to build a digital twin of the construction object, you know, if it's a bridge or a road or a house or whatever. And this BIM thing will have a major impact on cost and schedules of building objects. Some countries even demand that every new building, every new construction object is being digitalized and has a BIM representation, a digital twin. This will not only have has an effect on construction, but also might be transferred into other industries where we see the digital twins and can make simulations on them and look out in scenarios. And we always have with a digital twin, a digital representation. We don't need to update documents so much. It's all done in this digital twin system. Agile, I talked about Agile. A lot of Agile has developed since the manifesto has come out, and there's a lot of certifications. I counted in one list about 300 certifications in the Agile space. So it gets a little bit confusing, and with this, Agile PMI now tries to really put it together and to make clear where the singular Agile topics belong to. We also, as PMI, and I didn't mention it before, it's a code of ethics. So in 2006, my first term on the board, and the board then decided to set this current code of ethics and professional responsibilities, which is still valid. So it's now 15 years almost in the going, and this code of ethics somehow sets the space for leadership and teaming, and how to behave, what are the right decision-making parameters. I will come back to that. And the last thing I want to mention, which PMI also did internally a lot, is globalization. And globalization was a paper in the year 2000 when a New Zealand board member of PMI had a big project to think about globalization of PMI. And as a result, we see the current board structure, the current governance structure of PMI, and the development of a chapter structure, which is really tremendous important of PMI. And we have about 300 chapters in the world. And with the new CEO, Sunil, last year, we introduced a regionalization concept. So now for major regions in the world, there are people who are in charge of that regions and are there to develop membership and chapters in these regions. We have somebody for Africa, somebody for India, for China, for the major regions, but also for Asia Pacific, for Europe, Latin America, for North America. So these are now regions where we can better adapt the PMI products and thoughts to the regional environment. In globalization, PMI did not so much, in to see how to embed globalization in your projects. But on the other hand, if you look at the PMP, this is really a global certification, and that's what we did. I'm talking about the human hive here. What is it? And you might remember I mentioned the hive before. You know what a hive is? It's a beehive. It's a term coined by the Singularity University in San Francisco, which is a private university. And they think, okay, they are looking at the future. What can happen in the future? And human hive came up in this context. So if you look at the humans on the earth, in 2030, only 10 years from now, we will have 9 billion people probably, and all of them will be connected. Now we have 4 billion connected, which is good enough. But 9 billion, that's more than double that. And what does it mean connected? It means intensified communication between all and everybody. It's a democratization of information flows. And it's also opens up new ways of dealing and finding solutions. You can see it now with the Corona crisis that the research institutes for viruses research are working together globally and exchanging much quicker information than they did before. So this changed a bit. But in 2030, only 10 years from now, 5G will be everywhere. You have everywhere an access. You might have no longer a smartphone in your pocket. You will have something implanted in your brain probably. And Elon Musk is already working on that. And he has shown some ideas how a brain-computer interface could work. We will need other social skills, because right now, you know, we are meeting virtually, but we have developed some kind of um, ways how to talk to each other, how to listen to each other, how to build trust, how to go there. You know, it's very important that in a Zoom conference you show your face, you show your video, because that creates some vulnerability. You know, if you sit there for 2 hours on a screen, you are not having your show face on. You know, you are just yourself, and people can see you, and that's what requires other social skills to be authentic. We only see some people are talking about social distancing. We are not social distancing. We are coming closer together, but we are physical distancing. You know, and it's all in real time. Now, I don't have to travel to Mexico for what I would like to, but yeah. Global internet. So Elon Musk is also putting up satellites up there. You know, in 2022 there will be 1,040, according to the plans, Starlink satellites, and he will cover the whole surface of the globe. Every square meter has access to internet through his satellites. And it's not the only one, Elon Musk. So there are others looking for that. So the whole connectivity will no longer depend on the mast you have somewhere with the antennas. So you can really reach everybody, and not only reach, but you can track everybody on the globe. It's scary, isn't it? But that's what's just now happening, you know. What it means, if we really can talk to each other, we need common rights and behaviors and common things and ways to talk to each other. Now, okay, we are in a project management environment, and we talk project management language. We behave like project managers. These are our rights and behaviors. But if we talk to 9 billion other people, you know, maybe there is not a good way to use the behaviors you use in your project management or family environment. You have to develop something that is really acceptable by each human. And not only acceptable because he has to listen to you, but he can go away. You have to attract him. So your influencing ability to keep people interested in what you want to give them, you know, these, or how you can help them. This is something where you might go back from the rights and behaviors you have right now to human values. I will talk about human values in a moment. We still, different roles and capabilities are needed. So the hive, there are different roles. We have the female, and we have the males, and we have the queen. So we have different bees doing different roles, and we will have the same in our human hive. So still specialty skills will be needed. And we can even ask the question, is it the point that AI is embedded in that hive? It will. But in what way? And you know what it means for our values is the hive is certainly more important than any one individual, which is for some maybe a mind change. You know, it's not so much about individual freedom, but about survival and success of the whole hive. This is, by the way, something that is discussed in Africa for some time. If you heard about Ubuntu, you know, that's a belief, and it's a belief system of people that we are one human family. Well, sounds like a hive, you know, and sentences like a person is a person through other people. I am because you are, you know, it's all, we come together. We define ourselves. No, we become ourselves only through other people's. Without your parents, without your siblings, you know, without your colleagues, without your people you are interacting, you are maybe nothing. You know, Ubuntu has 3 elements and has 3 aspects and 9 elements. You know, attitudes of Ubuntu are we bring forward a dignity, respect, and tolerance. We tolerate others. Behaviors, we are listening, we are honest, and we find solutions to conflict. So we identify conflicts and know how to solve them. And in relationships, we develop a feeling of belonging, of interdependence, and of community. Ubuntu seems to be a little bit, you might say, okay, it's maybe like a sect or whatever, but you know, it's a feeling that in Africa many people have, and Africa is coming from the source of what we humans are. So the consequence is a growing human hive, you know, may lead to extreme diversity and hence unprecedented creativity. If 9 billion are there, and all they have different backgrounds and come from different areas, we have extreme diversity. Diverse views, if brought together, they are the prerequisites to be creative and to be to find new things. New forms of power will develop. You know, the power on the internet will maybe compete with the power we have in nation states or in economy and so on. The power of being connected will be very strong. So the question is, what is the role of nations? You know, and of governments. We'll see that, and democratization and demonetization might come. So this is an example of what I said, a philosophical way to do that, a human hive. And now coming back to the project economy, bringing it all together, I talked about BIM, the human hive. So the project economy on the right-hand side, you can see it, is about society. It's about that everything we do, every operations we have is moving into projects more and more. In Germany, we estimate that 40% of our GDP is created through projects. You know, and we have a lot of manufacturing here, so creating cars and everything and machines. Nevertheless, 40% of GDP in Germany is estimated to be created through projects already, growing. The roles you have in a company, they go into gig jobs. So the employment states and the states where you can offer your skills to somebody will get shorter, but will get probably a little bit more intensified. The age of the project economy is the age is while you live here. It's not only from 5 to 19 or until 65, you get probably get a pension. Even after that, you know, I'm out of business from IBM. Still, I'm working, still I'm volunteering, still I'm giving back and mentoring. I have about 10 people I'm mentoring at every stage. So if you're in need of a mentor, ask a good leader, and a good leader will also always reply. If he has capacity, he will say yes. Project economy as such is then to provide hope, you know, to remove the feeling of insecurity, to provide security, and in the end also to help you get more resilient as a person, but also as an organization. So what is, this is a practical advice, how to become more resilient, if I talk about that. There is this paper in Harvard Business Review 2016 by Martin Rees, who, by the way, is from Boston Consulting Groups. So it's about how to become more resilient. What they did, they looked at biology, the human skin, you know, and said, why is the skin resilient? What are the characteristics? And they said, okay, it's first the structure. The skin is modular, it's redundant, and it's diverse in its cells and how it, in the layers, how it's built up. So they said, okay, if I can move that modularity, redundancy, and diversity to an organization, to myself, I will be more resilient. Resilient means, you know, that I can better respond to deep changes, you know, without dying or getting into a deep crisis. And we will have more deep crises apparently because change is getting quicker. And the second things are the behaviors, what are required for resilience. Prudence. Prudence is a very important behavior. And if you haven't looked in prudence yet, you know, Aristoteles, so the old Greek, they talked about prudence. Today, we might say it's mindfulness, it's explore in the test, expect surprise. So try to be in charge of what you are doing and what you are thinking, which decision you are making. Embeddedness. Don't isolate yourself. You are embedded in the environment. Be sensitive to that environment, to the context. Trust others and give back if you get something, or even help before you need to give something. And adaptability, sure. We have this agile movement, which is also building on that. So these are the simple 6 things. You can look at yourself and try to become more towards these things, and then you get more resilience. To give you an example, modularity, don't concentrate just on one skill. I'm the best, whatever, if I don't know, programmer in this and that language, but try to build a set of skills which complement each other's and try to be and are autonomous but interconnected, and then you can better survive crisis. Coming to the next point, leadership and ethics. So, this girl, Yusra Mardini, she from Syria, in Damascus. She was a swimming champion in Syria. So she could swim well, and she took place in this competition, swimming, 17 years old. She decided to leave the war-stricken country with some other people, and she entered the project, to go from Turkey, which is the landmass here, to Greece, and to the island of Lesbos, which is a part of Greece. And in between are 25 kilometers of open sea, and sometimes violent. So what they did, they had a motor dinghy, something like that, which is designed for 6 people with a motor, but it was loaded with 19. This was in 2015, and they were part of the 1 million people that were coming into Germany as refugees at this time. So what happened? They already could see the shores of Lesbos, but the motor stopped, the boat took water and started to sink. So Yusra jumped into the sea, not to swim to the shore, what she could have done as a good swimmer, but she was staying at the boat. She was followed by 3 others, and they pulled the boat and they kept it afloat as good swimmers. And while the others worked on the motor, and after 3 hours, the motor restarted and all were safe. So, is this a good person? I think so. And when I heard her story first, I was touched by that. Some maybe little tears came out of my eyes. She trusted and was trusted, and a trusted leader, and a successful project. So what she did, and I want to later return on these 3 items. She had a vision, she took action, and she achieved results. These are the 3 characteristics of a good leader. And these are the 3 characteristics of a project manager too. So let's talk about ethics, the human aspect. Ethics values describe triggers for our emotions. So if we see these values being promoted and acted upon, we feel good, we feel touched, we feel positive. And if we do it ourselves, we also feel good. And there's a guy called Rashad Kidder. He passed away some 10 years or so. But he researched his whole life about ethics and the human values. And he had a book, I'm referring here, Moral Courage. In this book, and in other situations, he describes 8 human values he found everywhere in his research on the globe. Every tribe, every people he looked at showed this 8 values. And you can see, if you are a PMP or a PMI member, you can see that the top 4 are the values that are mentioned in the PMI Code of Ethics. And I know that's not on purpose, that's by chance, you know, but the volunteers who defined the code of ethics, they came to the same conclusion, which was found by Rashad Kidder. And you see there are 4 more values and that Rashad Kidder found. And one is freedom, autonomy. You can see that, you know, if you are feeling free, you are deciding autonomous, you're on your own, you feel good. You know, if you see others being free, also feel good. So that's why we have all these political things right now. Community, you want to be part of a community. You are here in PMI, in the chapter, you know, you are in, you have a family, you are in your company, you want to be related. And if you're isolated, after some weeks, you might get crazy or you even die, you know. That's just happening to us as humans. You want to see compassion, care, love. So with that Syrian girl, what she showed was help, you know, love and compassion. And the last thing is, for me, a very important one, humility, reverence for life. So you don't brag around with your achievements, but you are really humble and laid back and say, okay, I'm just one human of 9 billion, and hopefully, I don't know everything, but what I can do is give back and be very listening to others, what they do. So these are the 8 values that Rashad Kidder found out. So now we can see these 8 values have been developed through evolution. You know, it's not something a religious founder found out, but it's something that is embedded in our behaviors, perceptions, and so on. And this can even be proven. You know, some animals show some of these values, but all these together make the human values. And it's not so that one value has a priority. So it's not that freedom is the one value everybody cherishes and has there as a dominant value. All 8 of these values are somehow balanced, and certainly there are differences from culture to culture. Let us look at some characteristics of ethical values. So, you know, if I have ethical values, and everybody has, maybe they are not aware of them yet, but my ethical values limit my options of action. So I can use a hammer for everything, even for bad things, but my ethical values will limit that I use them for killing somebody, you know? So tools, like what I can do, my skills, my capabilities, they can be used for anything, but only ethical values are the ones that are giving some constraints on my actions. Ethical values here, we also talk about values and beliefs. We talk about culture, you know, and culture is represented by a lot of things, you know, your common behaviors, rights, norms, science perspectives. And we talk about beliefs and values, but many people talking about that, they don't understand there's a big difference between beliefs and values. Values, human values, as you have seen on the slide before, they connect people. You know, if you see fairness, you are touched and you say, okay, yeah, I like that, you know. Why beliefs define communities, you know, like a religion believes something. People outside of the religion believe something different. So beliefs are rather dividing and values are connecting. And this comes back to the human hive, you know. If we are connecting 9 billion peoples, we cannot stick on common beliefs because 9 billion people don't believe something commonly, you know, but what they have are human values. So that's automatically that human hive will come back to the human values as a way to limit our behaviors and how to communicate to each other. We all are part of many communities, you know, and you might not be aware of that, but think about it, what your community is aware of in your life. And every community has left some things in you. And if you think of yourself who you are, you know, you are somehow the combination of all these communities. And you know, there is this saying, you will develop into this intelligent person as the average of the 5 people you meet most every day, you know. And well, there's something at it. It's the same understanding here. Because you're in Mexico, you know, maybe you know Miguel Bazanes, and I don't know if I pronounce him well, but he was a ambassador to the US from Mexico, and he wrote a book which impressed me a lot, and it's about culture, you know, about the humanity and the culture. And what he said, found in the book, there are 3 hypercultures, you know, and he termed the culture of achievement. He would see the Western culture, you know, the culture of joy, and the culture of honor. And he somehow characterized them. So if you look at Latin America, about Mexico, you are more, according to him, belonging to the culture of joy, you know. And typical behaviors is you cherish family and friendship, you cherish learning, you have a sense of agency, meaning you want to act for somebody, you know. And key dominant values are trust and family, and autonomy and embeddedness is always a little bit in a challenge with you. So we see that the main religions of that hyperculture are Catholicism, Buddhism, and so on. Me as a German, you know, I would be rather in the culture of achievement, based on the Roman law, more punctual, more efficient. The job is larger than the family for us. And what is very, as a value, you know, we really cherish hard work, you know, and hard working is something you will find in our culture. So I don't want to read this paper, but you will get the slides. They're already on SlideShare if you want to look it up, and you also can read this book. The book is not easy to read, you know. So this is for me what I got out of it as an essence, and he has a lot of deductions and evidence for it from other books and so on. So it's a thick book, and but it's, if you're interested in cultures, I think, in globalization, I think this is something you might want to be aware of. So what does it mean to be a good and an ethical person? What can I be, or to make project success more probable? That is the question, not what can I do, what can I be? And if you look at yourself and try to behave ethical, you know, the rest will follow. And the rest is that you behave ethical, you are able to go to any group and build trust with them. If you build trust with them, not only from you, but also within themselves, you can lead them effectively, because there is a we. From a they, there is a we. And if you lead effectively a trusting team, you know, you will succeed with the team. So this is one way to lead a team and have success, by behaving ethically and do the other steps in between. I'm not saying it's the only one to succeed. You also can force something through, but you know, it's something that is proven, and that is that I think is the right way to do to be a good person. Another thing I wanted to share is how now to become a good person. You know, there is another Harvard Business Review article from this year. It's called Building an Ethical Career. And it's about how to become a good person. And actually, you know, what they are saying is, first you can plan and prepare for it. And then the ethical person means that you make ethical decisions. You know, there's also the second part of it. And the last part of it is that once you make decisions, ethical or not, you learn from it and you build your resilience. So the first thing is, plan and prepare, being self-aware, being clear who you are, what your values are, and work on yourself. Mindfulness is something like that. Look more at ology virtue. So don't think my purpose in life is to make much money and have a lot of power. So no, think about something you would find on your ology, on your gravestone. Yeah? So he was a good person. He was a good team member. This is what is better helping you to become an ethical person. Prepare scenarios. What if? Let people know that you want to become an ethical person, that you want to be an ethical person. Get a mentor and create supportive habits to be ethical. So these are something that you can help yourself to prepare to become an ethical and better person. I will have another slide on the decision making, so I don't go into that in much depth, but it's in core about self-control. Make sure you don't have knee-jerk reactions on something, but you control yourself, you think, and then you think about, is it ethical or not? But once you made it a decision, build your own resilience with that, share dilemmas with others. So I was unsure doing this or that, ask for feedback and avoid unethical people and places. So if you have a company, you work in a company which is unethical and you can't stand it, you better leave. How to make good decisions from that article, and there are some interesting things. Stay calm and avoid stress. So don't make an ethical or unethical decision under stress, because under stress you cannot think clearly, rationally. This means that you build your self-control. Before you decide something, do something, you give yourself the time to think. So this also means that you don't have to take a decision when your boss asks you. You can say, let me some time to think about it. This are the strategies behind it. If you are asked to make a decision, search for ethical issues in that decision. Is it unfair to somebody? Take the values. Is it respectful? Is it that I'm humble enough with that? Ask these questions. Then if you make the decision, avoid rationalization, which means you make a decision and it was maybe not so good. And then you come back and you say, okay, but in the aftermath, I think it was a perfect decision. So avoid that, What you could do to avoid it is you could put that decision under a publicity test. So is it okay if it is published tomorrow in the newspaper or on Facebook? Is it a second test, a mirror test? So if you look in look in the mirror and say, if I make this decision, do I like myself? Yeah. What do you think about this decision maker? Is he a honest or a good person? And the third test, generalization test. Could my decision be used to have a template for other decisions? Yeah. Is it a good example for others? So these kind of thoughts already bring you in a rational thinking. Get a lot of views and perspective on your decision. Resist social pressure, which is stay calm. Even if the whole group says you have to do it now, and you have to, and it's the best way you should do it, resist that. It's your personal decision. And then making the decision change perspective. So change your views on this decision. One perspective is given through the ontology, and if you have, for example, that's rule-based. If you have, for example, the PMINL Code of Ethics, they are scenarios and it says don't do that, And you can follow these scenarios, still make an unethical decision, because it's just one view on an ethical decision. The second view is utilitarianism, which is consequence-based. So what kind of outcome will be there if I make this decision? And utilitarianism says the outcome should be the best for the most people. So if it just benefits you, that's not the right thing to do. And the third thing, it's called virtue ethics. It's going back to Aristotle and what he said about the ethical guy and the good guy. You know, if you look at that person as a whole, is that integer to make the decision this way? So these are three perspectives you made use. Ownership. So you are responsible for your decision, nobody else. That you cannot rely back on the social pressure. And although one thing is, if you have to make a decision, get help. You know, maybe you have in your organization an ombudsman you can go to and say, okay, I have this kind of dilemma. What should I do? Or this kind of whistleblowing. Ask your mentor if you have a mentor. I really strongly recommend to get a mentor, or ask frameworks. PMI has an ethical decision framework, so it's a kind of process what to do step by step. You can also use this kind of stuff. So a lot of things you can learn, and for sure this is not a tick list. You know, you have to think about it, you have to learn it, and you have to make it a habit to do that. And then you're making better decisions by default. What Rashad Kidder also said, there are three different ways of decision making. Though one decision is easy, you know, good, bad decision. You do go for the good thing. That's at least sane people make this decision the same way. But then there are the good decisions where you have two values and you have a dilemma. What is more important? And here is the point that it depends on the situation, on the history of that thing, on your experience. You know, so if I see something with a stain on his shirt, you know, the question is, shall I be honest and tell him? Or shall I respect him as he is and not embarrass him? So respect and honesty might be a balance here. And or if you are asked to fire people, you know, it's certainly a way. How can you be fair and respectful to these guys? But if you have fulfilled your responsibility of firing people. And the third way of ethical decision making is the most difficult, is the moral courage. So once you decided for something, now do it. You know, if you decided how to fire people, you know, how to be fair, respectful, and that you do that, then do it. You know, so this might have pain for yourself. This might have personal consequences. But you see, with whistleblowers, not taking bribes, stand up against bullies, these are kind of decisions where people stand up and say, yes, we are heroic. The best way to deal with the dilemma, I say, is reframing the dilemma. What I mean by that, you know, if you have two values, looking on the left side, the value 1, on the right side, the value 2, and they are framed somehow, you know, in their environment. And I say, okay, should I be honest or should I be respectful? So reframing means that you put these values together under one frame. This is mostly done by extending your view, going out of your current framing of that, and then you have two values in the same frame, and then you can be honest and respectful. You can be accountable and fair, you know, and that's always possible, to extend your view and have something that you can remove the dilemma into a win-win situation. Design thinking, and yeah, I listened to my predecessor as a speaker, you know, design thinking. This is another view on design thinking. It's another method. There are several methods within design thinking, and I use this double diamond very much because it tells you how to reframe, you know. So double diamond, you see two diamonds on that design thinking method. The left diamond defines the problem. the specific problem. So you have a general problem, you have an idea, empathy, you see something, and then you involve research, which needs divergent thinking, extending your view. But from the research, you come to a conclusion and you define the specific problem. That's convergent thinking. So that's what you do again and again in loops. You have divergent thinking and convergent thinking, and then you can reframe your problem. I would say 50% of our problems are no longer in existence after you reframe them. Emotional intelligence, let me talk about that. You know that surely the upper sector is about myself, On the left side, I observe myself. I'm self-aware. I'm confident. I'm authentic. I know my blind spots, And if I talk to others, they will feel authenticity because I always behave the same thing, And the image they have from me is similar to what I have from myself. On the right-hand side is self-control. It's also about me, but it's really to act on myself, to refrain from knee-jerk emotional reactions, This is building resilience. This is being implemented by being mindful, by doing yoga or whatever, meditation, and make sure that your rational brain has some control about what you are doing and there. On the lower part, it's on the left-hand side, observing others. On the right-hand side, acting on others. And this is, in the PMI context, another view on stakeholder management. On the left-hand side, you try to find out by learning, by empathy, understanding and listening others, what is happening there? What are they thinking? What are their emotions? Why do they say this? How do they decide? On the right-hand side, you want to make them understand, you influence them. And that's called leadership. So the core of leadership is acting on others, having an impact, solving conflicts and negotiate. And this is the core you want to get to influencing others if you are a project manager. But to be honest, the whole life you're working on all 4 quadrants. And that's what emotional intelligence is about. It's a key thing to develop yourself as a leader. Now I want to show you a tool how to influence others and to exert self-control. And this tool is called SCARF. And it's from the book, Your Brain at Work, by David Rock. And David Rock is saying, okay, we, in his book, he has 5 emotions that come up in us, which are triggered from events of emotion about status. So if we are attacked ourselves, if I told you you are a PMP, but that's not worth anything, PMP is old-fashioned thing, and now we should do other things. You feel inferior, you feel angry, that's a bad feeling. But if I say a PMP, that's a strong thing, and you are the project manager helping others to overcome uncertainties, you feel good. Status is one of them. Certainty. Sure, if you have uncertainty, you are fearful, maybe. But if you know where to go, you have courage and hope. Autonomy, freedom. If you don't have autonomy, freedom, you are forced to something. If you give freedom, you are empowered. You can do something, decide on yourself. Relatedness, being part of a community. You can be isolated and lonely, or you can be protected and embedded in your community. Fairness, we talked about fairness as a human value. You see, and autonomy is also a human value. Relatedness, community. Status, certainty is a little bit different. But, I'm using this kind of SCARF technique with most of my presentation, also with you. And if you remember, that's how I started. And this attacked your status as a project manager, you know, I said you are great and you are important. I gave you a certainty what I will talk about, not in the agenda style, but in the style, you know, some practical, some philosophical ideas. And I gave you something about autonomy, relatedness, and so on. So I did that, and I hope you felt a positive emotion when you listened to this slide. So coming to an end, leadership competencies are very well described. If you want to look at this book, Leadership 2.0 from Travis Bradbury. And what they say, you know, there are core leadership competencies you should build on. It's the first one is, well, strategy and vision. We had this before. Second is actions, be decisive, mobilize others, communicate. And the third thing is bring in results. That means you have to take risks. You know, the old Pareto 80-20 rule is a good thing for that. Be results focused, be agile in providing some outcomes of your actions and of your project leadership. Leadership can be seen when you perceive a shift from uncertainty to certainty. That's my main message, you know. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, Clausewitz was a German general in 1820. He wrote books, and he said leadership is absorption of insecurity. You could say it is creation of security. But even then, you know, this is a military leadership in what he wrote about. But nevertheless, it's a truth, you know, which is there for some centuries. And I don't want to read this shift, you know, from uncertainty to certainty has different aspects, you know, and you can see maybe at the bottom, narrow view to reframing. I talked about reframing. If you can reframe, then you can remove the narrow view of other people and give them another view on the future, and that's what is helpful. Everyone is a leader. And I mean it. It's not everybody can be a leader. He is a leader. This girl didn't know she could lead. But came the situation, you know, she had a vision, she acted, and she brought in results. These are the 6 books I showed you in my presentation. And connect with me, discuss with me, read the books, and I hope you had some fun listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. If you permit us, we will proceed with our question and answer section. We have about 7 minutes, and we have many questions from the audience today. We will try to answer as much as we can during this time. But if there are questions left, will you be okay if we share them? We share these questions with you?
Sure.
And we share them later, or maybe share with them on social media?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So let's begin. We have one question from the audience today, and it says, as the PMI community, from your point of view, which are the key values that we need to promote with the team members and the organization from a global mindset?
Well, if you look at the 8 human values, I think if you think about them and bring them together and balance them out, first of all, we have to work with ourselves. And then if we are aware of these values, we can influence others by our actions, by our decisions, by our talk. And that's what we as a project manager in this community also have to do. I have seen a lot of volunteer leaders, and I see your chapter, you know, and they are so dedicated, and they are so helping to bring in others and to support the community. It's always amazing. We have now 14,000 volunteers globally, including China. And I think, you know, it's not only the code of ethics, which everybody understands, but it's really a kind of mindset, a kind of mental state, which all these volunteers have. It's giving back. Giving back means compassion, helping others, you know. If you look at these, for me, it's very, very good to have these 8 values, because I always can map reality, decision-making to these eight values. And that is very important to work on myself, to understand them, to embed them, to develop habits, to execute them, and then others will follow and will be happy to be part of it.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. We have another question from the audience today, and it says, from your perspective, what would be your suggestions to make the transition to the project economy, especially thinking about Agile in the developing countries as in Latin America, where Agile is in the early stages, or corporations are not familiar with this mindset yet? In order to move to the project economy, should we focus on adopt the Agile framework first, or should we move and focus on the broader perspective from disciplined Agile?
I have my personal view on the Agile thinking. If you talk about developing countries, I think they have already a practical mindset about being Agile, because you're living in a much more fluid environment, you know, and it's not that you can bring all the best resources and planning to the project. So I think Agile mindset has not been invented with the Agile manifesto. You know, it's there forever. It's just a part of how we think and how we act in a certain environment. So what helps these economies, you know, that are maybe developing? I don't think it helps to bring in strict frameworks and processes and all that. I really think what helps them is to make them more secure how they are doing things. And my view is, you know, an Agile mindset, it's maybe more appropriate, because they will adapt it to their circumstances and use the right tools and way of working in that. In that, digital Agile is an improvement over other Agile frameworks, because it says, okay, select your way of working, and it may help from point to point, but I think the way of thinking is more important than any framework.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas. We have time for one more question. And it says, today, with the globalization and the power of connection, in addition to the pandemic situation, the project team members are more and more integrated with diversity. How would you recommend overcoming the difference between the team members that come natural from different cultures, communities, and values, and convert them in an asset for the project, the results, and the team?
Yeah, I was working on a lot of projects with international team members, and even before Corona, what I did always is to have a kind of a cultural workshop up front, you know, and I use the tools of Hofstede and some other tools to make everybody aware that we have different beliefs, different attitudes, different behaviors. And the first thing is to make the team members as a group aware of that. And the second thing is, if they are aware, you know, that they respect others. So again, the value of respect is important. Awareness is giving the information that there are differences. Give you an example. I just this week, there was a question on one of the forums of PMI, and the person is a US guy, and he said, okay, I was helping another guy, and he came back to me and said, thank you, boss, well done, you know. And so he was now really a little bit upset, because he didn't want to be called boss. But this will happen, you know, the other person meant it very positively. And, you know, and I recommended that he goes into himself and say, okay, what problem do I have being called a boss? And understand that this might be the problem from his local culture. And that globally, the other person should understand that he might have a problem, maybe talk with him about it. So from his side is, you know, having a respect, but to the other person who's talking like that, but also inform him that he might change his words more cautiously in the future, because maybe he gets a very violent response if he calls somebody else boss.
Perfect, Thomas. Thank you very much. With this last question, we finished the section of question and answer. We have many left from the audience today. We will be glad to share them with you by email and share the answers with them as soon as we can.
Thank you. Hopefully it's in English.
Yes, they're in English, so we're okay with that. Thank you. We will proceed to talk in Spanish with our audience. And, bueno, agradecemos la participación de Tomás Walenta y le solicitamos por favor a nuestro presidente Manuel del Río hacer entrega de un reconocimiento a Tomás como agradecimiento por su participación en este congreso. Adelante, Manuel.
Ok. ¿Van a presentar el reconocimiento?
Correcto. En unos segundos debería estar apareciendo en pantalla.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Thomas. We really appreciate time and support to PMI and PMI Nuevo León chapter. Really, you talk about making things reality, but your focus was very important to do it to the people, human values, ethical values, culture, and leadership. We really appreciate that information. I think it's very important to be aware that we work with people. I mean, this is the main, element in our profession. So we appreciate you for your excellence, for your knowledge, for your expertise, and as expert in global economy, project economy. So we appreciate all your time. Thanks, and hope to see you in another conference with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. And I want to thank you and your team, Cynthia and all, Paola and all the others who really prepared well and are running well this situation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tomás. Muchas gracias, Manuel. Continuamos con el evento del día de hoy. Queremos agradecer a nuestros patrocinadores también, a la Universidad Iberoamericana de Monterrey, al Grupo ALNUS y a la Universidad ALNUS, empresas especializadas en Project Management, y bueno, sobre todo porque nos tienen unos premios muy buenos el día de hoy. Los invitamos a registrarse para participar en la rifa de nuestros patrocinadores, que estarán obsequiando los siguientes premios. Los voy a compartir con ustedes. Uno de ellos es de parte de la Ibero, es un diplomado en Administración de Proyectos con una beca del 100%. El segundo es de Grupo ALNUS, una beca del 75% para un curso de preparación para la certificación Project Management Professional PMP en 2021. Una beca del 75% para un curso de preparación para la certificación Agile Certified Practitioner ACP en 2021. Y de Universidad ALNUS, cursos gratis a elegir de preparación para la certificación PMP o preparación de la certificación Agile CP para cursar en 2021. Pueden participar escaneando el código QR aquí en pantalla y creo que ya lo compartieron por aquí por el chat. Entonces los invitamos a aprovechar esta oportunidad y como siempre agradeciéndonos a nuestros patrocinadores para otorgar estos premios a todos los asistentes el día de hoy.
Muy bien, una vez que hayan escaneado también, les pedimos a todos que enciendan nuevamente sus cámaras para tomar una foto con Tomás, para tomar una foto del evento.
Buen día a todos.
Buenos días. ¿Estamos listos, Manuel, con la foto?
Dame un segundo. A ver, por ahí. Oscar, ya te vi. Perfecto. A ver, volteando hacia la cámara, por favor. 1, 2, 3. Denme un segundo, voy con la otra. Permítanme, está cargando algunos videos. Por ahí, los que falten, activen por favor el video. 1, 2, 3. Y la última. Denme un segundo. 1, 2, 3. Listo, Netzer.
Muchas gracias, Manuel. Muchas gracias a todos. Continuamos.
Perfecto. Muchas gracias, Netzer, Manuel. Thank you again, Thomas, for being with us today. Y bueno, distinguida audiencia, es así como con gran satisfacción llegamos al cierre del día 1 de nuestro Congreso. Aprovechamos los mensajes y enseñanzas que recibimos el día de hoy de estos grandes líderes y los esperamos el día de mañana en punto de las 8 de la mañana para darle continuidad a este evento. Y bueno, nos despedimos no sin antes proyectar algunos de los mensajes que tenemos, algo de parte de los patrocinadores y nos vemos el día de mañana. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy. Nos vemos pronto. Hasta mañana.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Hasta mañana.
Gracias.
Gracias, bye bye.
Gracias.
Gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias, hasta luego.
Buen día para todos.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias a todos, los esperamos mañana.
Gracias, bye.
Gracias, bye.
Muchas gracias. Nos vemos mañana.
Paula, ¿es en el mismo link mañana?
¿Correcto?
Ok. Bien, gracias. Bye.
Más piña. Me encantó la piña que
Only leave meeting.